Welcome to Church Jams Now, the podcast where three former youth group kids and current music nerds deep dive into Christian music from the 90s and 2000s. I, of course, am your co-host, Kylan Savage. With me, as always, is Mr. TJ Smith.
Hey there, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you? How's it going with you?
I'm doing all right, but you got me on my blind side, so let me just switch sides here.
Yeah, I can't see you that well, TJ.
All right. Now can you see me?
I can see you, definitely.
Okay, great.
Well, maybe.
Yep.
The other dulcet tones that you heard were, of course, our beautiful producer, Josh Olson.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Why y'all sound so bored? What's happening?
Josh.
Why y'all sound so tired?
I'm not feeling so great right now, guys.
Are you
super...
Are you
happy.
having...
Okay, you guys hang out one time, and then Josh starts doing TJ bits in the intro. I cannot keep up.
Josh, are you experiencing some Great Depression?
I think I am a little bit, TJ. Thanks for
Oh my gosh,
asking.
did the stock market crash and you live in... It's 1929?
Yeah. Well, I got just the thing for you, Josh. I think I know what's going to lift your spirits.
That sounds great. What is it,
Lexapro.
TJ?
Lexapro, and then after we get a good dose of that in you, this amazing album from Blindside, The Great Depression.
You know,
We're doing it.
I'm already feeling better. Thanks, TJ.
You are? Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm already feeling better.
I'm so glad that
We're doing this. We're here.
you guys committed so hard to this bit as to bring our energy to a full stop at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah,
That's what we're here for. That's what we do. Nobody's going to feeling depressive after this, man.
That's true. Okay, so we were talking about 2005's The Great Depression by the band Blindside.
You got it.
We certainly are.
TJ, you seem very excited about this. So is this a wishlist record for you, or is this just happenstance?
I believe it is. I think I may have multiple Blindside works on my wish list, if I'm not mistaken. I know I have the Black Rose EP on there for sure, but I think this might also be on my wish list. I haven't looked at the wish list recently, but
It is on your wish list, and it was when I asked for 3 records from your wish list to pick this year. This is one of the ones you picked.
oh yes, that makes sense. That's why
we're
doing
doing so many wish lists.
We're doing
lately.
a lot.
I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too.
But guys, have we done any wish list records or any records at all, for that matter, from a Swedish rock band?
We have not.
Are you
I
sure?
don't think so.
Mercy Me wasn't Swedish.
Pretty sure. I think they're Albanian.
Mercy Me?
Yep.
It's like an IKEA.
Yeah.
An
umlaut.
It's got the umlauts on the E.
No, yeah. Blindside's from Sweden, man.
I know, that's wild.
Stockholm
Okay,
boys.
so do we want to talk about, Josh, you want to do some research? Because it's our first Blindside record.
Dig in.
For our listeners who want to know who the heck this is, or think that we're covering the Sandra Bullock movie. Let's give them some context.
Yep.
That's the Blind Side. But this is just
Right.
no article. No
There will
article
be no
needed.
football and like heartwarming, tear-jerking moments.
Maybe.
This album. Well, yeah,
Maybe.
we'll see. Time will
Who
tell.
knows?
They might sneak something in there. But yes, as TJ was so wonderfully talking and introducing the band of that they are from Stockholm, Sweden. Their career is from 1994 to present. They've been significantly less active lately, but they did play Furnace Fest 2022, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It went over pretty well. I think they played Silence in its entirety. I heard it was great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. They have 4 members in the band at this time, and I'm pretty sure the same 4 members have been in the band the entire time, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow.
Of course, we have Christian Lindskog on vocals.
Of course.
Forgive me for pronouncing these Swedish names, everyone. Simon Greenhead or Grenehead on guitar.
Perfect. No notes.
How do you say it? Is it Thomas or Thomas? Thomas Naslund
You
on
pick.
bass.
Guys, I didn't get any help on the Anathalo Japanese
That's fair.
thing,
That's
so
fair.
you get no. Is all you, buddy.
Good luck.
Thomas Naslund. And then Marcus Dahlstrom. That one has an umlaut on it as well.
Yeah, I think you nailed that.
On drums. So I think they've been in the band the entire time, which is,
Cool.
if so, very respectable and impressive.
That is.
The Great Depression was released August 2nd of 2005. And guys, did you know this episode is airing August 2nd of 2023?
Oh, yeah.
For its 18th anniversary. In addition to being a TJ wishlist record, it also works out pretty perfect that this is going to be airing the week of TJ's birthday as well.
Oh, this is your birthday episode.
It's his birthday
Great
episode.
birthday presents, you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. What a great way to celebrate. I couldn't ask for a better present
Unless
from
we
you
hate
fellas.
this record.
No, you won't. You're going to love it.
Okay.
That sounds very
Well,
threatening.
we have to. It's your birthday.
I know.
choice.
I don't like
I'm gonna
being
make
told
you
what
a
to do.
cake with the Great Depression artwork on it, and here you go.
It's got to be all like black and gray,
It's gonna be a lot of
And-
black icing.
brown.
Hmm
And you can do the thing from The Office with the poster that says, "It is your birthday." Period.
It is your wish list record birthday.
It is your wish list birthday.
So happy birthday, TJ.
Thanks, y'all.
It seemed like a great I love that you picked this one for this year because I'm like it's airing on a Wednesday, so we can drop it, and it's your birthday week. Perfect.
Dude.
Perfect
That's the
stuff
best.
for it's this kind of scheduling stuff that makes me excited, gets me up in the morning.
I love that. Glad I could help by being born and
You
liking
did.
this
You
record.
did help. Yeah, you did a lot of coordination with both of those. This is their 5th record, released on the label DRT Entertainment, which was their first after being on Elektra for Silence and About a Burning Fire.
Oh,
I
this
don't know
wasn't
much
on
about
Elektra.
DRT,
Wild. Okay.
admittedly, so I don't know if they're still like part of a major label or just like a subsidiary label. I'm not sure. I should have done more research on that. I apologize, guys.
You should apologize.
What I
Come
did
on,
research on is the producer was produced by Lassie Martin. He's got some interesting characters over his letters as well. And Blindside, Lass or Lassie. It's Lasse. I'll just call him Lass for now. I don't want to call him
I
a
like it.
collie name
Right.
from whatever
Lassie.
decade that was.
Here, girl.
Lass Martin sounds like a good Swedish producer name. Lass Martin. I
Solid.
produce
For sure.
records. Lass produced their first record, self-titled, and the Black Rose EP, also on TJ's wishlist.
Yes,
Charts it aired at, or it aired. It charted debuted at Billboard 200 on. It didn't build number 200. It was on Billboard 200 at number 89. Didn't find any Billboard Christian rankings. It's got some Spotify stats, obviously not as big as some of their other records. The most popular song on here is Fell in Love with the Game at 235,000 streams, which they've got songs with like some million streams out there, obviously off Silence. So
Oh, wow.
Which that's one of the
It's-
singles, I think, from the album. So that tracks.
yeah. So all the other ones I feel like have pretty modest streaming numbers. So I am curious why that basically wraps up my research, but why this record and why this Blindside record, TJ?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It was a big one. I think.
Were you a Blindside fan already before this record?
Yes, but more fair weather at that time. I think I want to say John Cannon, who was on our As Cities Burn, Come Now Sleep episode for listeners, who was one of my bandmates and longtime buddies. I think he got me into Blindside maybe with About a Burning Fire, which was the record previous to the Great Depression. Came out in 2004. I think this was the first album that I listened to when it came out, in real time, you know?
Cool.
Okay.
And so that's kind of part of why it's a wish lister for me, is it was one that I listened to when it came out. They were touring on it, and
I love that about whenever you get into a band and you get to experience your first record release with that band. That's always a
Yes.
fun time.
exactly.
sure.
So I think that's mostly it. And I think the record is great from start to finish. I think it's the best iteration maybe of what the band does, and maybe even to date. I don't know. It feels like it's got a lot of really great songs on it and a lot of variety on it. And so for all of those reasons, I was like, that one ranks high for me. And yeah, I'm excited to see what y'all think about it, because there's a lot of hard rock, some alternative rock vibes throughout for sure. But there's also some weird Euro house disco kind of stuff going on at
Hell yeah.
times. And it's very dancey. So you've got the kind of screamo adjacent sound, a lot of aggressive powerhouse vocal performances and just riffy madness that's really high energy, but also it's kind of got some swagger and some dancey
Sweet.
stuff. So
I
I don't
can
know.
dig that.
I think it's just a cool smorgasbord of sound from a Swedish band that
Nice.
Hell yeah.
Is this
It's
your
just a
favorite
weird-
Blindside record?
probably, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
It's the one that I go back to the most, or that I think of as their best. So I think it would be my favorite for those reasons.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah. So,
I
Kylan, you said you weren't sure if you knew this record.
So Blindside is mostly a band that missed.
Okay.
Definitely.
It was on your Blindside.
Yeah, they
Right.
they were on my blind side. Yeah, About a Burning Fire, I'm definitely more familiar with.
Okay.
But I don't know. I kind of put them in the same camp as like Project 86.
Oh
of,
yeah, I can
like,
see that.
I mean,
almost
they toured together a lot,
and
were
even
good
without
friends.
like listening to a ton. Like I can't name a Blindside song off the top of my head because I did just kind of like. I mean, there's only so much music that a single person can listen to in their lifetime.
That is true.
And they
And
were
you
just one
listen
that
to more than an average person does.
yeah. They were one that I think like I've listened to a couple tracks, and there are a couple tracks that I really like, but they were never a big band for me.
Right.
And I don't know why that is. Like I think maybe because they fell I don't know. I was pretty specific about my taste in emo, screamo, metalcore.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were just far enough outside of all
Just
of that. And this
outside.
is
Yeah.
conjecture.
They're so
you know,
mainstream on Electra.
that
They were in grind, and you're like, nah.
that I just didn't get into it. You know what I mean? I
Nice.
had this exact same problem with classic crime, which
Mm-hmm.
I think our classic crime episode gonna come after this. We'll
Yes.
cut all this, yeah. So yeah, and we'll talk about that more later. But yeah,
Very
I have
soon.
kind of that same problem. It's like a band that I kind of missed.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I'm really excited to get an opportunity to really dig into them.
Well, I do think this is a good like entry point because, like I said, I feel like they really figured themselves out on this record and like kind of streamlined their sound.
Sweet.
Um,
Although it is about a burning fire, that's ostensibly what's their biggest record?
Silence.
Silence is their biggest one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know any songs from the Great Depression. Is it the Great Depression or just Great Depression?
The
Yeah,
Great
the
Depression.
The Great Depression. Yeah, I don't know any songs from this. I might recognize ones once we start listening.
yeah,
And so
yeah. I feel like you might. I'm curious to see if any that
I'm
you
excited.
hear are like.
Well, the thing
familiar
is
to you.
too, because they're like a pretty heavy band, right? Like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
typically. Okay, TJ, I feel like you're as the least like metal fan among us. You're
Right.
fairly discerning in terms of the heavy music that you really
Yeah.
like.
I'm particular about it. That's true.
So that makes me excited about digging into it.
Yeah, I do think along the way we're definitely gonna figure out why I like them more
You don't like, yeah.
than a lot of
That'll be-
other bands.
that'll be a
kind
fun
of
conversation.
their
Yeah.
era and their
Yeah.
peers. You know,
That'll be a
Um,
fun conversation.
and I'll probably look to y'all to help me unearth that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got you,
know?
man. I'll psychoanalyze you all day.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, Freud.
No problem. No
Tell
problem.
me everything about me. So, Josh, what about you, man? What's your Blindside vibe?
I'm kind of with Kylan on this a little bit. Maybe not to the extent that Kylan is. I'm obviously aware of Blindside, and I know some of the big hits and whatnot. And I definitely like had some of their records because I would just like find their CDs and like at half price books and buy them and listen to them a little bit. But I haven't listened to a ton of their record. Like even Silence, I don't think I've only listened to all the way through a couple times, and
okay.
not even like super memorable. I listened oddly to oh man, there's something in the water, or whatever the last album they did was. I cannot think of the name of it right now. I can think of
Shivering
song
Hearts We
titles.
Wait?
Yeah, that's, I was thinking like Bloodstained Hollywood Ending or
2011.
Our Love Saves Us. Yes. I did find that one, and I listened to that for a little while, for a good bit. So I listened to that one a lot. So that's one I'm most familiar with. But
Yeah, it's a
I
great album, too.
do know this one because shout out to my cousin Zach, who is on our Maylene episode. But I remember Zach showing me, this is Zach's, he's a Blindside fan, and this is Zach's favorite Blindside record too. So he's gonna love this
Nice.
episode.
Oh, cool.
Shout
Great
out to
take,
Zach.
Zach. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I
see
do
you.
remember him showing me some of the songs from this record on a family vacation trip to Minnesota, and I believe summer of like 2006. So it was like
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
a year after
Nice.
this came out. I
That's
do
fun.
remember really liking, I was like freshly getting into like really heavy music. So I remember really liking We're All Gonna Die. And I think after he showed me that record on the trip, I went to like iTunes and bought This Is a Heart Attack, We're All Gonna Die, and Yamkala. And I had those three songs like in my iTunes. So I know those ones pretty well. But the rest of the record, I don't totally know a lot. So
Got you.
Josh, can you tell us how long this record is?
it is 14 songs at 53 minutes and 27 seconds.
Whew.
That's a long one.
It is a long one.
That might affect some flopper bop tendencies.
It may. It may.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like to think, like where we're at now. I feel like we're seeing a little bit more of this lately. But like back in 2005, 14 songs was probably just a pretty normal like track
Yeah, it
list.
really was.
You're like, yeah, just you have at least 12, maybe 13, 14, maybe 15. Whereas like now I'm like, that's so many songs. Like I'm expecting 10.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it is really crazy how those standards have changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
But
For sure.
I think they're all quality songs, so we'll
They're
see.
all. You're saying that now.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
14 songs.
Yeah.
I think the Great Depression's like an intro, isn't it? So it's just
It is, yeah,
13.
that's an
Okay.
intro track.
All right, so it's like 13.
Yeah, which is interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because I was remembering that Silence is, the album Silence. The title track is the last track on the album. And then About a Burning Fire, same thing. The title track is the last track. And then on the Great Depression, they flipped it.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
That's the intro track. So
I like
it's kind of
that.
an interesting stylistic change. Also, some fun trivia. About a Burning Fire has a Billy Corgan feature.
Yes, it does.
We'll talk about that when we get to that album, but
Hooray.
I wanted to
It's
give y'all
LA.
that context because that's kind of fun. Hooray for LA. And then this album that we're going to dig into, Kylan, has a Johnny Cash reference, which
Fine.
I'm not going to tell you where it is.
Okay.
I'm just going to like set that there and see if you
Cool.
catch it. And then we'll circle back. I'll make sure we talk about it.
Cool.
So,
What if
but I'm
it's
curious
like
to see if you catch
on
it.
the first song. First
Yeah,
lyric
just
is like,
overt.
I shot a man in Reno just to
Shot a
watch him
man in
die.
What?
It's like,
Christian, come
oh,
on. You're
dude,
better
I
than
missed-
that, man.
I missed the Johnny Cash reference. I don't know
I
where
shot
it
a man in
was.
Reno and we're all gonna die. That's it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
That would be
Okay,
good.
so I think we've kind of skirted around it, so we might as well just come out and say it. Flop or bop predictions. I think I know where we all land, but because I feel like we did a better job this time than we usually do of sort of contextualizing where we are with the band in this record.
Yeah,
so,
true.
but let's
We're
just
getting
come
better
out
at
and
this.
say it. Much like a genius.com annotation. Let's spell it out for the people where we land.
Well,
TJ.
there's no depression in this puppy here. I'm gonna bop this one hard for sure.
Okay. Josh, what about you, buddy?
You can ask me now, and I'll have an answer. But we'll see where I land when the record has come to rest, and when I remember my predictions. I think I was trying to just go through all the track titles.
Yeah, I was like, see, I don't know the,
I
the
know,
track
it doesn't
titles,
land.
so this is just going way over my head. I was
That
like,
was for you,
pretty
Zach.
I'm pretty sure he's making a reference to the album, but I don't fucking know the
Try to
album.
be pretty obvious with it, but not obvious enough. I think this is going to barely bop for me.
Barely.
All
Bob.
right.
Yeah, and it's just
Skate across
just
the line.
because I have not really been able to ever fully like get into Blindside, so that's my only hesitation. I don't think I'm gonna have like any problems with it, and it's gonna be like a real Sufjan thing where I'm like, I don't think it's bad. It's just like maybe it's not for me as much
yeah.
as like
Sure.
certain artists are for other people. But I don't know. I think it's gonna be right on that line, but I think it'll probably fall into a bop.
All right.
Sweet.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I was gonna have a heart attack, Josh,
Ooh, this is a heart attack.
but I won't have one now.
Okay.
Yeah, so much like when the bottom fell out of the stock market in 1929,
Nice one. Nice one.
or the Dust Bowl. I don't know anything about this
That
album, so I'm
happened.
trying to make actual Great Depression references.
You're
Soup
nailing it, Magic
lines.
Mike.
When I was gonna say when shoes were $1, I don't know what that means. Yeah, dude,
expensive.
I think I'm gonna be just like Josh. I think it's barely gonna squeak by for me. I think the length is gonna be something I have to get past.
Sure.
I bet it will be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's gonna be, I think, my biggest barrier of entry in terms
Sure.
of like loving it. But I think it is gonna bop, man. Like I said, TJ, you're pretty discerning about the heavier music that you listen to.
That's true.
Yeah, and so I think I'm gonna have a good time listening to it.
I hope so. And I'm glad that both of y'all are sort of leaning optimistic with this and you're feeling like I'm going to fall on the bop side of the fence.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
cool.
yeah,
I like that.
that's usually where I end up when I have like the less context I have. I
Right.
feel like the more optimistic I am. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, because why not? Why not go through life
Yeah.
being as
Thinking you're gonna
optimistic as
love it.
possible? Yeah,
Totally.
exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
Sweet. So we're gonna take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're gonna dive into 2005's The Great Depression by Blindside. Hey Jammers, Kylan here, interrupting this very awesome episode to talk briefly about our sponsor, CollideRecords.com. Now, I don't have anything specific to highlight this week, but I just want to say, if you haven't gone to CollideRecords.com, why not? If you're listening to this show, they are the perfect place to go. As you know, here at CJN, we are huge fans of physical media. They have vinyl, they have CDs, they have CCM, they have 90s, they have 2000s. What else could you want if you're a fan of this show? And check this out. At checkout, if you type in promo code ChurchJamsNow, you will get not 10%, not 15%. You will get 20% off your first purchase. Once again, promo code ChurchJamsNow at checkout for 20% off your first purchase at CollideRecords.com. All right, that's all I got. Let's get back to the show. Welcome back, Jammers. I hope you enjoyed the sweet ad.
Were they about football?
Yeah, we actually, this week, we're sponsored by The Blindside, the movie.
We're personally sponsored by Sandra Bullock.
Go see her new movie, Gravity, in theaters today.
Whoa! We just time traveled. That was crazy.
Time warp, man.
Was it 2014?
Well, that's
When
not
did
the
that
only
movie
weird
come
thing that's happening. TJ, weren't you just sitting next to me recording our Blindside
Yeah.
episode?
Yeah.
Now he's sitting next to me.
Sometimes albums are so good that when you listen to them, they literally transport you to new spaces.
Let me tell you, this is not one of those.
Well, it was for me. That's why I'm here. I listened to the album, and all of a sudden, I was in your room.
Love it. Man, yeah. Always the second half of our recording nights always are just wildly different than the first. So welcome back, Jammers. Hope you spent some time listening to The Great Depression like we did. If not, you know what? We'll give you the lowdown.
We sure will.
So I have two questions before we get into it. First is any general thoughts?
I want to move to Sweden.
At the time. But thank you for asking, Kylan.
Yeah, of course. I always have to ask, even though no one ever does.
I like that you ask.
Thanks.
I
Most of the time I
genuinely
feel like
just want to move to Sweden.
Yeah, me too. Let's move to Sweden, dude.
Let's move to Sweden.
Let's relocate the podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so second question. I feel like we've kind of made this a habit on Wishlist Records, and I very much enjoy it. TJ, after now listening to the record again, where do you think Josh and I are going to land on?
Yeah. No, I was wondering whether I would get asked this, and
No, I like this. This is a good thing to keep doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We also need to get Hoog to give his predictions. We need him to call in.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we all, when we bring a wishlist record, are a little bit...
We're all a little defensive.
On the defense. Yeah, we're like a little bit... We feel scrutinized, kind of. A little like on the outs. And and this is no exception. I kind of think both of y'all are going to flop this hard.
Oh, dang. Hard.
Yeah.
Hard, too.
Maybe not hard, but just like you're gonna find a lot of like nitpicks that are gonna be hard to disagree with.
Hard to defend. I get it.
But I'll just go ahead and say I don't think they're gonna shake my opinion of this listen of the album.
Cool.
And I'm even gonna try to push back on them too.
Okay.
So
cool.
I don't even know what y'all have to bring, and I'm already ready to push back on it.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
TJ, let's
for
start
that.
off friendly, man. Like, why?
Well,
no,
why you
TJ's
so
coming out fighting.
We're in the midst of a Great Depression, you guys. So
that's
it's
true.
cutthroat, you know.
It really is. You got to get
an eye
yours.
for an eye.
All right. Well, let's just let's go ahead and dive right into it, man. Let's do it with track number 1, The Great
We
Depression.
are the sons and daughters of a revolution. Revolutionaries walking us out of oppression and into a no-law promised land. And this leaves us with this great sense of sadness growing inside our soul. No one can explain where it's coming from or where it's taking us.
Okay, so my first question is, do you guys know what this is? Did either of you guys find out what this is from? Is it like from anything in particular? This little monologue?
It's nothing that I could find. There's, all kinds of other things out there called Sons of the Revolution or whatever, but I don't think there's anything that this is referencing specifically.
Right. They just found like an old like public domain tape or something.
Well, I think it's Christian.
That sounds like Christian.
Yeah, I think it's his voice.
Oh, okay.
So I think it might just be like a sort of introductory poem, you might say, or prose piece to intro the album. And listening back to this, I had told you guys it had been a while since I'd listened to the whole album. I think listening back to this made me realize that it's sort of a loose concept album.
Yeah.
At least that's kind of how I have been interpreting it. And this intro track definitely kind
Sets
of
the
made me
tone
double
for that.
down.
Yeah, for sure. You guys know what my note on this is going to be, though, right?
Not
Get
long
rid of it.
enough.
No, it's really cool. I love it. It's too long.
Mm.
It's too long.
I agree, Kylan. And
You
I
do.
think right as Christian says, and this, my friend, is the Great Depression, it should have immediately
Yes,
cut
just
to
jump
the
in.
next song.
Yeah.
For sure.
Which he does
I
have.
agree.
He does have like the little talking intro of that song, but like, so I don't know how that would have worked. But I would have loved him to say, "This is the Great Depression," and all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam,
Yeah, exactly.
cuts. Like,
Yep.
I would love that. So
Yeah, it drags on for like 30 seconds too long.
yes,
Just a little bit. It's like, okay, we got the point. Now let's like get into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that,
But-
I like it.
It is really cool. I love this kind of stuff
Yeah.
for intros.
Definitely sets the tone. Yeah. So I guess the one thing I would say is like, I think, yeah, I agree. The timing, they could have been a little more economical with it, but I love that it kind of puts us in this place of like being in a Great Depression or seeing ahead that there's going to be a period of Great Depression.
Right.
And there's like the classic era of the Great Depression in the West, but I'm going to go ahead and just propose that we see this as a more like metaphorical idea, the Great Depression,
Cool.
as something that on a personal level or a communal level we all experience from time to time.
I think you're right about that.
I'm just going to set that there.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
gonna
you're
leave
right
it
about
there.
I like that. I like that.
All right. So
I'm
let's
just-
move on.
I'm just upset that I didn't. When you said, I bet you guys know what I'm going to say, I should have said, "This is your favorite song." Dang, missed opportunity. All right.
Yeah, that's my favorite song. It's all downhill from here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Much
All
like
right,
a Great
guys.
Depression.
Yeah. All right, track number 2. This is a heart attack. Okay, right off the bat, I gotta say, this is not what I was expecting. You guys remember from part A, I said I'm not really familiar with Blindside.
Because
And
yeah,
this
have
came
you
on.
have you ever even heard this record?
No,
Okay,
I hadn't heard
okay.
anything.
I
This
couldn't
is all
remember.
fresh for me. This is not what I expected at all.
I told
But
you it was dancey.
It 100% made sense why it's an album you, TJ, would connect with.
Yep.
This is very like Pretty Girls Make Graves or like Showbread even. Is
Yeah.
very like
Mm,
Showbread.
yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely some sonic overlap. Yeah, jumping back into this one, I was getting like big nostalgia vibes, just like riding around my small Texas town listening to Swedish hardcore music.
Like you
as
do.
one does. Yeah. But I do think, to your point, that's why I connected with it, because it was
Right.
so weird and dancey and kind of angry, but like still sang a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot packed into this album
Yeah.
lyrically and thematically that, a sophomore in high school, what have you,
For sure.
is really
Like,
going to
is
connect
really
with and be
yeah,
like, wow, this is deep.
Definitely.
Um,
It's a little flowery at times, but like is
But
definitely
also-
like saying something.
and it doesn't pull its punches musically either. Like, I mean,
For sure.
it's not, we're not in the realm of August Burns Red or anything like that, but it's pretty heavy. Like,
Yeah, there's
it
some
has
heavy
some moments that get kind of into that hardcore territory. What I wanted to ask y'all, and I feel like this opening track is a great representation of their sound on this album in general. Are there any touch points or like similar bands that y'all like, that you're more familiar with, that this reminded you of?
Yeah, Pretty Girls Make Graves.
Yeah,
Although they have a female singer, but it's a similar kind of thing.
same vibe.
And Showbread. I think
Yeah.
there's definitely this song in particular felt real
yeah,
Showbready.
Yeah, I'm getting like the dancey elements are making me think of like if Franz Ferdinand was like heavier
whoa,
and or
that's
Swedish kind of.
and or Swedish. Yeah, I like that.
Should I go ahead and say my my big note about the record that we were talking about off mic?
Sure.
Oh,
Okay.
man.
You might as well get into it.
Yeah. So I think I should go ahead and just say this right now. I think my biggest problem with this record is I think the band for this record needed a lead guitarist because so much of it, there's a lot of stuff happening musically that is interesting, but ultimately a lot of it is the guitar and the bass are doing the same thing way down low on the neck.
Right.
Or something similar.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to there's a lot of space that I feel like could be filled that would kind of hook me in more throughout. Josh, what do you think about that?
This is my big note for the record too. And I have a whole thing prepared for it. And I was like, I can't do this in track. I mean, it's track 2 technically, but I was like, I have to wait a little bit. But
Well, that was my original plan.
this is my I don't want to show my hand or anything, but that aligns with my general thoughts on this as well.
Oh,
I don't
now
know if
you
I
have
want to
general
get in.
thoughts.
Yeah, I do have general thoughts. Well, I can just be like, I think this. No, I have been working on something. But I mean, I think it's a lot of things. I don't know how much time we want to spend in this first track. And it's over the whole record.
Like if you
so, I
have
mean,
more stuff, like maybe we can get into it later if we don't have as much to say on later songs.
Yeah. So I can talk about that a little bit, but I definitely picked up on that. That was something that I noticed, and this was something like this was one of the 3 songs that I had like back in the day. I remember this one, "We're All Gonna Die in Yemkala," I had. So this was like a lot of fun nostalgia getting back into it. But then I was like, oh, there's a lot of empty space here that other Sonic stuff could be happening in. But yeah,
Right.
I'll save some of my other stuff as we get through. But I do want to say I do like the change of the line of instead of like One Nation Under God to One Nation Under Attack. I like that. That's fun. And I feel like it's not as preachy because it's coming from a European band. Like,
Right, yeah.
Well, yeah. I think that's why this clicked for me when it did in the way that it did, when other bands of its ilk coming out of America were not connecting with me. I really think
Right.
there's something about the outsider perspective that they have on the West in general, but also creating this kind of personal narrative because
Yeah.
it really it seems to simultaneo's do a lot of like the social commentary, political commentary, but also like kind of construct like a narrative arc for a narrator or a protagonist or something.
Yeah.
And I think with the Sonic stuff going on, acknowledging the fact that they were lacking that lead. I mean, Simon technically is the lead guitarist, but like he was doing a lot more rhythm work and that kind of thing.
Right.
So with that Sonic foundation, I think they created like an interesting environment to hang out in that for me was great because when a lot of American nu metal bands and like post-hardcore bands were doing their thing, and I wasn't connecting with a lot of those because they felt a little scary or like weird or edgy to me in a way that I thought was like, I don't know, maybe there was a little more anger in them where there's a lot of hope, I feel, in this record.
Interesting.
So even though there's that Sonic element that y'all
Well,
pointed out,
I
I'm
will
like,
say though, for that, it does give you space to really sit in the lyrical content.
right. And as y'all
Which is
know, I'm a
another
lyric
thing
boy.
that's a big reason it hit me why it would connect with you.
Yeah. Because I think this song, as the proper album opener, is just that high octane energy that's like lashing out sort of in response to the Great Depression,
Right.
quote unquote. Like if we want to use that as a metaphor for, you know, whatever it is on a personal level or a societal level where there's a period of slump or lack or desperation or fight or turmoil. And I think this song is like kicking things off in full pushback mode. There's like a protagonist that's kind of angry. It's almost like reptile brain. Like they're not really thinking so much as like feeling and reacting.
Yeah.
Exactly. And jinx. And it's like, you know, the metaphor of the nation falling into a Great Depression is, you know, important social commentary, but I think also the personal narrative that it starts here, for me was always more compelling, and even now kind of still is. So Yeah, I guess even now listening back, though I noticed the lack of the lead guitar component, I'm like, but tell me more. Like, what is this story?
But just
So I'm
imagine,
still drawn
though,
in.
if they did this, but had like Cody Bonnet,
Oh, no
like
doubt.
doing
Just
some
ripping.
like sweet whittlies
Oh,
over this,
man.
like it would be perfect.
So Blindside, if you're out there,
It'd
Cody, if
be
you're out there,
perfect.
In
Can
some
we do,
universe,
like, a redux?
ACB broke up and Blindside
And-
snagged Cody.
Yeah.
And,
and this album was even more fire.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. No, that all makes sense.
But I mean, the energy in the song,
Is great.
recognize.
Yes.
It's so
Yes.
good. The one guitar line by the second verse started to bug me. That dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Like you wanted to
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
vary it.
Yeah, just
Just
a little
change
bit.
it up a
just
little
No,
bit.
Yeah, I
these are
get
my
that.
notes for other songs, guys.
But the instrumental after the second chorus felt almost sort of like prog rock
Mm-hmm.
that I kind of enjoyed. That was weird.
Yeah.
I think it was.
There's another band that it was a little bit of a leading question earlier when I was like, what bands are they reminding you of? There's another band that we haven't mentioned yet that I'm curious to see if either one of y'all will mention. At a certain point, I'll get too impatient and I'll bring them up, but I'm curious to see.
You
if they'll
should
get
set
there.
like a deadline. You have 3 songs to bring
3
this band
songs to
up.
bring
Otherwise, I'm doing it.
Okay, let's get to, if you haven't mentioned it, by song 6.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
gonna say that.
All right.
You get those songs 6.
Okay.
Also, I'm
The
gonna go
stakes
ahead
have
and
never been higher.
put it out there. Kylan, have you caught the Johnny Cash reference that I mentioned in part A?
Yes, I did. I did.
High five,
I
brother.
did.
What
There's
was
one
it? I
called
did not
Steve.
get it.
Don't say it yet.
Oh yeah. It's not on this song.
Oh, okay.
I just, since we were in the first song,
Yeah.
I wanted to go ahead
Yeah.
and
I
ask.
did catch it. I
Great.
did catch it.
I can't wait for that.
It's on another song, Josh.
Okay.
Yeah, you obviously didn't do as much research. Okay, guys, let's go
Busted.
ahead and move on to track number 2.
Hey, ask me how much research I did. Ask me now.
Josh, how much research did you do?
Ask me.
Not enough.
Not enough.
Here's track 2. Ask me now.
So one morning just before dawn you came out of the forest towards my window with a smile in your hand as the moist air.
I like that bass tone.
I was just gonna ask.
Sweet, sweet bass.
No, I like the bass tone.
I like the bass. It's my favorite bass, I think, on the record. Except for there's one other part that I...
There's only the problem is this is one of the only times you can actually like hear the bass.
That's what I'm saying. Because
Yeah.
the guitar and the bass are mostly just doing the same thing.
Yeah, they're hanging
So-
out in a lot of the same progression territories, and the mid-low sonics are showing up big time.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's hard to distinguish between anything that they're doing differently gets lost a little bit sometimes.
This feels like a Muse song.
Okay,
Oh,
that wasn't the band, but
dang, no. Now that you said that, I'm like, that was the
completely
band.
agree.
Yeah.
It
Right?
really
Especially like when he gets
does.
into the chorus,
Wow.
that emotion.
Yeah, real Matt Bellamy kind of register.
Mhm.
Yes.
Wow, I've never realized that, but there's a lot of Muse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The guitar line, especially, like,
This
Especially that
just
really
fast
tremolo picking. That's a
Uh-huh.
very
I
Matt
was like,
Bellamy
yeah,
line.
this is straight up Muse.
yes. I was actually gonna ask
Dang.
if y'all caught the Muse influence, or not influence, but similarity,
Yeah.
because I couldn't place it for the life of me the first time listening back.
Oh yeah.
It took me like the second or third listen through where I was like, oh,
Oh, it's Muse.
there's so much Muse going on here. That's what it is.
For me, it was the first time I heard that emotions running through my veins. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, all right.
Yeah, that is a Matt
all
Bellamy
right.
line.
I see you.
So true.
Yeah, musically, I thought overall this one ended up being a little more interesting than This Is a Heart Attack.
Yeah.
But I didn't like it as much as This Is a Heart Attack. I love
Mm-hmm.
This Is a Heart Attack. That was very close to being my favorite song on the record.
Nice.
Wow. This one, when
Yeah.
it like kicked in, it felt like the Blindside sound that like I have in my mind. I'm like, oh,
Right.
this is Blindside doing what they do.
Their classic kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good rise and fall on this track, which I think is one thing that they do well as a band, and we'll see more iterations of that across the track list. But this is kind of the first time there's a lot of that, like up and down, kind of loud, quiet, and jammy moments that are kind of cool, which would benefit from more lead action, to y'all's earlier point, but are still fun just as they are. And I think a lot of these rise and fall moments and the instrumentals act as a call and response to the thematic and lyrical content in these songs. Like, on this one, for example, there's this kind of like, there's some pent up energy. Like I feel like the narrator in the midst of this Great Depression is still rejecting the idea of falling into that depression or acknowledging it even. Like there's like a lot of...
So still like the denial.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. All right.
But there's also, while there's that struggle of like acknowledgement of the thing happening around them, there's also this story, there's a new component that's like a relational component. There's a figure that we don't really know kind of what their nature is. They're kind of mysterious, but there's a sense of separation that I feel like the protagonist is experiencing. They're like on the inside of a house looking out through the window, and they have this like desire to find union with the figure out in the woods, kind of walking through the forest, but they can't find that union yet because they're a little afraid. There's some doubt. There's like fear of the unknown, the fear of losing themselves, that kind of thing. And then there's that drop at I think it's 2:19 where there's that kind of weird like country slide guitar environment that feels like a shack or like a cabin out in the woods, where like the person's out by themselves, they're kind of in isolation, and they see this figure out in the woods, and they want to create some union with this character, but they're also still in a place of like kind of turmoil, like inner turmoil, so they don't have the capacity to create that union yet. And I feel like that slide guitar kind of creates that eerie sense a little bit.
Almost a kind of like Western, which fits in with the whole like American Great Depression thing.
Yeah. And a little like horror adjacent too. Like Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
A little creepy.
Nice. I like that you're digging into all this, TJ, because I'll say I didn't really dig into, like I read through some of the lyrics, but not a lot of it. Like I feel like I was able to get or be like, oh, I see what Christian's doing with this. But all of these lyrics are like within like the realm of like, I like them for what they are in the song. And like, and none of the lyrics or anything like feel like are distracting or take me out of things, or I feel like aren't well written. So it's like the perfect kind for me to just like listen to and be like, I don't really know what he's talking about, but I like the pictures he's painting and the words he's using, and it works. Yeah. So I didn't get much out of it personally for being like, oh, I know what the song or this record is about, but it worked still.
Well, also specifically, there's a lot of the, like, especially a lot of the verses on these that feel like poetry that like don't necessarily rhyme. It's almost like kind prosy. Of spoken word. Yeah. Prosy. Yep. Like, and that can work or not work, but it really worked for me.
Good.
On this listen through. Like, it was like, okay, I get it. And he does enough interesting things with his voice that I was like,
so much.
It's wild. His voice is crazy.
And I think that's such an element that again differentiated this band from a lot of other kind of that new metal post-hardcore world that I didn't hook into. I think Christian Lindskog's voice is like so unique, and his performances are just like so wild and interesting.
I've heard that from a lot, or I've seen that a lot online of just people talking about how Christian is like one of the best out there, like with his voice, and like, and I'm like, it's great. He does an amazing job.
Yeah, I think it hooked me from the beginning when I first kind of got into Blindside, and this album to me especially has some of his best vocal performances across their discography.
Yeah, cool.
But I do feel like it helps too to create this like sort of pseudo concept album that I'm headcanoning for you guys live right now.
Love it.
Because he does.
That's the beauty of this podcast, TJ.
It's the beauty of it, y'all.
Get Matt. Is it Matt Shepard? He's the dude from Love Drug.
Michael.
Yeah.
Michael. Get
Shepard.
Michael Shepard on the phone. We got a new movie to write.
We got a new movie.
The real art house kind of situation. Gonna be.
We
weird.
have to travel to Sweden for it.
Yeah.
Yep. We have to. I also wanted to say, I feel like this is a good time to say that I think of this album as like a triptych or like a 3-parter. And so that sort of narrative that I'm proposing here, this is the first section, and it's all about sort of the denial shifting into the conflict and the lack of union shifting into the acknowledgement of need and like wanting that connection.
Cool.
So that's like part one, and I feel like we're
First act.
right in the heart of it. Yeah.
Okay,
I love
cool.
that. All right. Well, let's move on to the next track. We're all going to die.
This was the first song that my cousin Zach showed me on this record, and I was
think?
immediately drawn in on it. It was when I was still kind of newer getting into like heavier stuff. So I was like, this is so heavy. And part of it, like I was listening to Hawk Nelson and FM Static. So part of me was like, I like the dark that it's like, we're all gonna die is the song. So I was kind of drawn to that idea. I fully expected this to be my favorite song on the record because I really loved it back in the day. But I kind of hate this guitar tone.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, production wise, like this one sounds a little like smushed compared to a lot of the
The
other
drums
songs.
sound so small on this one.
Yeah.
There's a couple songs like that on this record.
Yeah.
It's like I wanted the drums to be just like fatter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I kind of wonder like what happened in the engineering and mixing process, because yeah, everything on this song just sounds a little tinier and like kind of
It
tinny
should
and
sound
smaller.
huge.
The chorus, when the chorus comes in with those big stereo pan guitars, it
Yes.
widens things
Yeah.
a little bit. And
Yes,
things
okay.
get a little more massive. But
Here's my problem though, is that, and this happens multiple times on the record in different capacities, but so they have the one guitar line for the first verse, and like you said, the stereo pan guitars make it feel nice, big, and full. And then for the second verse, they go back to the one up the middle guitar, and I'm like,
Right.
Yeah.
you can't. And they do this a couple times where the second verse sonically is the exact same thing. They don't introduce any new elements
Yeah.
Right.
in the second
Yeah.
verse, and I'm like, you have to do something new here, because
Right.
why else? Like Christian's doing something new, obviously. So you guys should have put something else in here.
Yeah.
So
You'd
Yeah.
hope that like his vocal work would make the musicality of the track play up.
Yeah.
And be better and more
like,
interesting.
or like Simon's like, oh, I have another part that I will save for the second verse kind of thing.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
That's not the
Yeah, but it's like
case.
they get an idea and it's like, okay, here's this like almost like here's like a verse riff and a chorus riff, and it's just like we're just gonna do that. Which
all we got,
to be
yeah.
honest is a very like old school, like hardcore punk kind of musical mentality.
Keep the main thing the main thing.
And it some parts of the album I feel like it really works and some parts it doesn't. But I agree with you, Josh. That,
Yeah.
Like
Well, and I wonder how much of the arrangement decisions and just like the sonic production decisions on this record were a reaction to the last two records of them having Howard Benson produce them, and they're mixed by Chris Lord Alge. So they're like huge wall of sound, big sonic monster record. So maybe they were like, let's strip things down a little bit. Like, let's go back to Sweden and track this with our friend Lass, and who did like our first record, and let's
Right.
not put a bunch, like it's kind of a thrice beggar situation where they like,
Kinda
you've done so
like,
much
go back to,
yeah,
like,
you
our
want to
old
go back to
school, like,
basics.
yeah.
So I'm like,
Simplify.
it probably was, maybe, I'm assuming, I'm projecting here, but I could understand that would be a lot of the reason why, but I think it kind of suffers a little bit for that.
Yeah, I could see that. I did really like, is it a trumpet, that horn line?
It's a trombone
Is it a trombone? That's great.
played by Christian Person with two S's.
Excellent.
Christian person.
Christian person.
That's not a real person. That's not.
No,
that's not
they're
real
a
name.
Christian person.
That's
They're
not
a
real
Swede
name.
person.
How dare you say that about Christian person?
Christian person and Elvis baskets. Man. Not real people. That's a teaser for an upcoming episode, y'all.
You'll know what that means later.
In 2 weeks.
It's a Chekhov's basket.
Check off basket.
Check off your basket.
No, that trombone line's cool.
It is.
No, it is cool. I like it, especially being in like such a heavy, like, we're all gonna die. Let's have a trombone in this song. Like,
Yeah. But it's kind of transcendent. Like it kind
Right.
of it gives the line and the chorus more weight, like more gravitas almost. Like
Yeah.
the fact that there's like a horn section at all on
Right.
a song called "We're All Going to Die." It's like kind of hardcore anthem. It's like
Yeah.
very weird. But it works for me. I thought it was really pretty. I also love the bridge around 2 minutes because it like drops down.
Yeah.
And then again, that rise and fall, right? It's almost as if they're using dynamic shifts and ebbs and flows instead of having fancy lead lines. Like it's their dynamism as a band that is the lead
Right.
component almost. It's like they're drawing you in with those shifts of volume and arrangement choices and that kind of stuff instead of like
Right.
having a lot of me's.
Yeah, I
per
understand
se.
that argument. I don't necessarily agree with it,
Okay.
but I understand that. I think, yeah, it's possible that I just personally, that didn't work for me.
Paired with Christian's vocals. That's my
Yeah.
I'll rebuff my argument and say it's the dynamism paired with his vocals. His vocals almost take up so much space that as long as he's going really hard,
Right.
it's almost like for me, I guess I just didn't
Yeah, I mean,
miss
my
the guitar
notes are-
until I started.
my
thinking
notes on
about
I
it,
think
I
another
guess.
song are that Christian's definitely carrying this record.
Right, right.
He's
Yeah.
doing some heavy lifting.
I
here.
think so. And I guess my whole thing, I'm not missing, like, I don't need them to, like, shred on guitar, but there's one song, and we'll get to it later, where they're literally, like, picking single notes on the guitar.
I
doing,
have
like,
the
almost
exact same
like
notes.
chord arpeggios, and it makes it stand out so much from the record. Like, even if they would just do that, like, the guitar line, just, like, pick those notes during
Yeah.
the verse or
Some
something, would
diamonds.
give, like,
Yeah,
a little bit more. But
totally. Yeah.
You and me,
Uh,
Kylan.
No, I get it.
But I
It's-
get what
it's
you're
true.
saying, though. I get what you're saying.
I think I'm digging for the components of this band that are different from other bands that have great electric players, that
Yeah.
are like, solid lead guitarists that don't have the dynamism this band has,
Right.
or that don't have Christian as a vocalist, or
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I think of like Project 86, who they're
right.
played with each other a lot. And like Randy, Steve obviously is killer on bass, but Randy as a guitarist, I don't think like he's like an amazing shred guitar guy. Like, but I think he writes effective parts. And I think, so you don't have to like be the best guitarist on the planet, but I think you just have to fill out your space.
Yeah. Lyrically, I just wanted to mention
Yeah, this is the end of your part one, right?
the idea.
Or
Well,
is it-
one more song will probably round out the first
Ooh,
part.
I like that.
Yeah, but thematically and lyrically, it's this kind of dance between nihilism and optimism. Right, we're all gonna die, but we're all not meant to die young.
Right. That's
So
such a good line, by
it's
the way.
so good.
That's
Yeah,
a really good line.
really good writing and economical. And I think it's the protagonist still pushing back on the idea of like submitting to the realization that the Great Depression is happening.
Right.
It's like, there's a little bit of like, well, y'all might die. Like this Great Depression might be happening to y'all, but it's not happening to me.
Right.
Because you can flip it and either see it as like a hopeful line or like a line of denial. Like, well, we're all
Right.
gonna die, but we're all not
Yeah,
meant to
it
die
makes
young.
Yeah, yeah.
You can see it both ways, which I like. That there's like some interpolation, kind of interpretation possibilities. And what I like too is that this idea of depression caving to other forces out there, like literally a depression, like
Right.
going concave, submission, as a sort of false understanding of what weakness looks like. But I feel like the protagonist is stuck in this mindset of a depression being something that is unwanted or like avoidable, or something you can physically individually push back on. So we're still in that. I feel like we're still in that space in this song, and we see a little bit of a movement coming up.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I dig
look
that.
for it.
Sweet. Well, let's keep looking. Let's move on to track number 5, Yamkela.
Yamkela. Yeah.
Yamkela. This is my favorite song on the record.
It slaps, right?
It's so good.
Tell me why, Kylan.
Well, this is where it clicked for me. All the nitpicks that I've been having about the guitar and the lack of, certain things I was maybe expecting. This is the moment that I realized, like, oh, they are or were like, they're definitely coming from the tradition of old school hardcore punk.
Right.
This is just straight up like an old, like a Minor Threat or like a Fugazi song.
Yes.
This feels like a Fugazi song to me.
Right.
And it's like, let's just play fast, let's play hard, and this is just like what we do. And so some of those the things I was missing from the guitar, it was like, okay, well, I get if this is sort of, and I have no context because I haven't listened to their earlier stuff, but the fact that this kind of style comes up multiple times makes it feel like, to me, like at the very least when they were in high school, this is like what they were listening to and what they kind of grew up playing.
Right.
And besides that, lyrically, you guys know the story of this song.
Mm-hmm.
I assumed so, but we should, probably tell it to listeners who might not know.
Provide some context.
Yeah. I don't want to get any details wrong. So I want to find out exactly. So it was in so before this album came out, Christian took a trip to Africa and
South Africa, I think.
South
specifically.
Africa?
Yeah.
Cool. Do you just want to tell it? Because
No,
I feel like
you
I'm gonna
got
get
it.
stuff
You got
wrong. But he met a young boy who had HIV and supposedly had less than 2 months to live. And that was honestly it was a big inspiration for the whole record too, right?
That trip, yeah.
Yeah. Just some sort of the things he had seen.
Yep.
And that makes this song hit extra hard. I feel like when you know that context.
Yeah.
But I did find there was a silver lining / happy ending that where Christian Lindskog said that on a tour in South Africa recently, they had seen that kid at a show in Cape Town. He was all grown up and
He was doing great.
came and sang the song on stage with them, which was pretty rad.
Yeah. That full circle kind of moment doesn't always happen, So it really is pretty special.
Yeah.
It gives the song some gravity. Not only does the song go hard in that classic kind of punk sense, but it has some real life kind of weight to it, which I think makes the pure punk adrenaline in it just hit even harder.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Like I said, it feels like a Fugazi song, and I was here for it. The guitar actually did some interesting things.
Yeah, it showed up. Simon showed up on
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah,
Yes,
it
he
really
did.
did.
This is my favorite song too.
Yes, Josh, we
We
I kinda
are the
wondered-
same for this.
we're literally the same this whole record.
We are. There's I think the guitar tone, especially coming off of We're All Gonna Die, the guitar tone is much better, and there's some much more interesting parts on this song. I love the crazy part at a minute 30 where it's bwam, 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 bwam. That's crazy and fun. There's a breakdown, and then I do really like the lyrics.
Yeah, and it's an arrhythmic kind of breakdown too,
Yeah,
which is
it's
really
great.
cool.
And we're not really in a key. I'm just hitting. I'm just doing whatever sounds cool. Yeah,
Just straight up old school punk. I love it.
But I do, like I said, there wasn't a bunch of lyrics that I noted, but on this song in the second verse, I do really like. He says, "Take me back to TV land. Numbness is a safe zone." But I really like they never trained me for reality. I'm a reality TV clone.
Yes.
And then I like the very last line of this, but I'll keep going since I'm almost there. Now, did you say you're 10 going on 11? Something is terribly wrong. And he says, "Somehow I'm dying with you." And I really like that line. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, it's empathy.
Yeah.
He's outlining the experience of understanding the suffering of another individual and empathizing with them.
Well, yeah, and I think it's coming to the realization I didn't expect to get this heady with it, but also we're in this great collective if societal, but then I feel like for me it was more of a first world depression, but then you're oh, there are people in the world that are dealing with actual real problems. Not
Right.
that not to diminish depression isn't a problem and all this stuff, but different kind of like more dire kind of things, I guess.
Physical,
and so it's
economical.
yeah. And so thank you. So it's like somehow like I'm dying with you because we're kind of letting this happen, or we're getting numb through our safe zones, and like because of our reality TV, like I'm dying this way because. So I like that idea.
Yeah. And on top of that, the chorus, the gunpowder burning under my skin, is literally like him mentioning the sensory impact and like the way that HIV presents in the late stages, like in your extremities and on your skin. There are burning sensations and like lack of feeling and pain that comes along with it. So, you know, he's blending the metaphorical and the very realistic.
Right. Yeah.
sense.
Well, and then to that point too, like this is one time where I feel like the sort of more basic, bare bones production style really worked for this style of song and for the lyrical content, because it gives it a real sense of immediacy.
Yep.
You know, like there's a real aggressive energy but not like angry, like fuck the government. It's like, I'm so mad at that. This is reality.
Yeah.
This is the world. Yep. I just have
The
to
human
get this
condition.
out. Like, yeah. And it really worked for me. The song is fucking great. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. No, I do think it rules. I'm glad to hear that for y'all, that you like this one so much, because it does. I think it like brings you back. It kind of like snaps you back to attention a little bit, where those, you know, the like maybe tracks 3 and 4 are a little bit of like sagging moments, or they're more heady and more atmospheric, even though we're talking about a rock album. Like it's interesting to mention that, but Yimkala is such a banger, and it's like you said, it's got its roots in punk, so it hits you right in the spinal cord, and it like brings you back to the moment, like the present moment.
Yeah.
And it's also, this is now the end of part 1 of my triptych story here, where the protagonist is kind of like finally being forced to reckon with the Great Depression, and it's manifesting physically, right? So that's the fire burning under your skin, or the gunpowder, and it's the protagonist not being able to deal with it and having to cave, having to create that depression in themselves to acknowledge like the need for union with something other than themselves, to rely on something other than themselves, to not be isolationist, to not be individualist, which are societal values for the West, right? Talking about first world, third world, communal values are big. So there's a layer there that I think works here. But in addition to that, on a personal level, it's just, I think the protagonist kind of like throwing up their hands and just in total desperation, just admitting like, I can't do this on my own. I'm kind of burning under my skin, trying to do it the way that I've done it. And which is the definition of insanity, trying the same thing for a different result, right? And realizing like, I'm stuck. I gotta move on. So we're seeing that literally happen, and we shift in the next track into the second part of the story.
Well, let's do that then.
Let's do it.
Let's move on to track number 6. Put Back the Stars.
Put back the stars, I'm unashamed tonight.
Okay, so I know you told us if we didn't mention a certain band by track 6, you're going to tell us, but can you give us until track 7? Because I have an idea.
Okay.
I don't have anything for this song, but I have a very specific band reference for the next song.
Okay.
And it's possible it might be the band you're
It could be.
talking about.
All right, I'll give you till 7.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
It is fun. I did notice like the whole radio static intro of this. There's a huge element of that throughout this record, between the opening track and then basically almost every single song has at least some kind of part where the vocal, either it's like the backup vocal that's kind of just yelling, or something where it's got that like, you know, where the EQ is all just pushed into the middle and kind of distorted and feels like old-timey radio.
Right.
Which definitely I feel like lends itself to the
classic.
concept. album
Great Depression
thing. Yeah, exactly. Of like
Yeah.
evokes a lot of that.
30s. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
totally. Yeah, this one is definitely where tonally, sonically, we kind of maybe not dip, but we kind of take a breath, a pause. The tempo of the song is a little slower, right? Especially compared to Yemkla. And it feels like a more anthemic ballad, very emotive, thinking about the stars and our place in the universe.
Right.
That's the reason I think of it as the beginning of the second part of the sort of pseudo concept album. Like the protagonist is finally realizing like their place in the universe and like that they need something. Like earlier, right, in Ask Me Now, like there was the moment of like acknowledging this other out there, like that we might want to connect with or create union with. And I think now we're starting to see that release, that moment of acceptance. There's a literal exhalation happening in this song, the way it kind of like goes from that wall of sound to that dip down. So even the sonic elements of the song kind of reflect like the idea of hoisting our sails but waiting, right? It's not an active kind of moment. It's a passive thing. It's like receiving as opposed to being the active member in the story. You're kind of like stepping back and waiting. Yeah. And asking for that union. I love the pan guitars on the last chorus. I don't know. I think they widen things out.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and there's more like little like guitar lines, more like for texture, I feel like, but there is some additional stuff that's not just the rhythm track, which I did appreciate.
Right.
I do like the song.
So good. It's so good.
His scream is so good too.
Andy's
got a really strong voice.
He does everything in between too. Like he can like hit and like he can just go from like just add like it's like almost you're adding distortion in. Is like how he can control his voice. Like, do I want to be fully clean? Do I want to be fully harsh? Or do I want to like add a 30% distortion? I can do that.
Yeah.
Do I want to add 70?
He has like a range of grit. He has like a knob almost that he can control it.
It's pretty great.
True.
What kind of snare sound is this, guys? I don't like this snare sound, but what kind is it? It's like not got a lot of body to it.
Yeah, it feels like a thin, like almost like a piccolo snare or something.
Or just like a big, wide, but thin snare.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like what genres you normally hear that kind of snare sound in, but
maybe reggae.
I'm about to say, I'm imagining this like a Red Hot Chili Peppers snare. This is a Chad Smith snare.
Right. Is Red Hot Chili Peppers the band you were thinking of?
That was it.
It is.
We did it, Josh. We did
so
it.
Much Blindside Chili Peppers crossover.
Yeah.
I can't believe I never saw it until now.
No. No, the snare is weird. I've never thought about that, but you're right.
Nah, yeah, it stood out to me a little bit. Overall, though, I do like the song.
I do too.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're almost halfway.
All right.
I want to mention too, like, I think part of that release that I was talking about for the protagonist in my story, I think realizing that you're lost, right? That's the core idea that I was trying to get to. I didn't quite say it. Ain't it something to know you're lost? To realize like you can be lost and that can be okay.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's part of the process, right? The dark night of the soul, that's like really experiencing kind of crossing through the Shadowlands. That's part of that release and that exhalation. And we also see this imagery in the lyrics of the eyelids being painted with light. And I just wanted to bring that up because we see the eyelid imagery later in the track list, but it gets a little inverted. So I wanted to mention that as far as Christian's writing, he's using some similar ideas across the track list, which I think is kind of cool.
I also loved the lyrics, fill the sky with your breath because you know I'm out of mine. Let the sky burn and I will inhale without a fight.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's really good.
Good. He's a really good writer.
Yeah.
Very much enjoy his writing style.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's do track number 7, Fell in Love with the Game.
This is one of the singles on the album.
It's the most streamed song on the record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have we hit your favorite song yet, TJ?
Not yet.
Okay.
Ooh.
So this song I very much enjoyed. It was close to being my favorite on the record.
Nice.
But it's like two different vibes that are both on the record, is like this and Yemkla.
Yeah.
Or like, it's like, do you want dancey or do you want
exactly
like hardcore?
Right.
But okay, This felt like a Jonesetta song to me.
Yes. That's still not
that
the
it?
band.
God damn it.
Oh, man.
But
I was like, that has to be it.
No, I know.
But this is straight up like, which once again makes
Completely.
sense, like why TJ loves this. Like,
Completely. Yeah, it's like harder Jonesetta.
yeah,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah, completely. No, totally.
But his voice on this, because his voice sounds different every song, which is fucking insane to me.
Yeah.
But his voice on this is so good, but it sounds like Jonesetta.
Yes. Yeah, with those hard stop guitars and then the little line. Yeah. It really is in the best way.
Yeah. Okay, but what is the band? I gotta know
Dang,
before we
yeah.
do anything else.
All right.
So
I failed the
Coldplay.
test.
I don't know if
Mariah
this
Carey.
song really
REM.
embodies what I'm talking about, but there and honestly, it's not even
Postal
a song to song parallel. It's more just like these little kind of like
Green Day.
flavor crystal moments across the album that sound so much like Me Without You.
Ah, yeah.
Okay.
Christian's like some of his talk singing.
I think
the
it's
prosy
specifically
stuff,
that. It's specifically that.
The
which is-
guitar work, when the guitar work shows up, feels a lot like. Doesn't
Michael.
Aaron's brother play
Michael.
guitar? Michael,
Michael.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you, Michael, thank you, Mike. It feels
Michael.
a lot like Michael's stuff. Like
Yeah.
it feels angular and kind
For
of
sure.
like ambient.
Definitely.
Okay.
Well, and
I can confirm that because there was a time I was listening to a lot of With Shivering Hearts We Wait,
Right.
and I wrote a guitar line for a song that I was like, that I was definitely feeling the Blindside influence on. And then after I wrote it, I was like, oh, this is very Me Without You.
Yes.
So it's definitely there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like if they were a little more like Euro rock, you know?
Right.
Like, that's the difference. Like they're Swedish.
Yeah,
Me
exactly.
Without You
no,
ain't
totally.
Swedish.
Yeah, and I think like I was saying before too, like the sort of non-rhyming lyrical
Right.
content does. Yeah, it does,
Yeah.
and it
The
works.
very
And
like
then just how like he'll like just
prosaic.
suddenly like be like talking or singing a line and just like burst into a scream. And
Yes.
like Aaron will do that too.
Exactly. It's a very like kind of like caged animal, like a wild
Yeah.
animal, like been put in a cage, and they're kind of like
for sure.
pacing the walls of the cage, and then all of a sudden they're released.
Yeah.
And they're just unhinged.
Can we dive into some music theory real quick?
Please.
What is the time signature stuff happening in the verse of this? It's weird.
It is
Right? Did
weird.
you guys catch
Oh,
that?
I think is it in 4/4 and the breaks are in 6?
that was my
3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3.
well. It's almost. Is it 5?
I guess it's like I think it's a measure of 2/4.
It's 2/4, I think. I think
Yeah,
it's 2/4.
okay.
Is it 3?
Or it's a bar of 3.
Is it a bar of 3/4?
Yeah,
Is it
but
4/4
it's
then
like
3/4?
2 and then 3, or 4 and 3.
Are they different? Are they all different? It's weird, but it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
Thank you for catching that. I heard this song in the car, and so I didn't write my note for it. But then I was like, oh, when we started doing this record, I was like, there's one song that had a time signature thing I wanted to talk about.
was it?
Yeah, it was this one.
Yep,
I got
it's
you,
this one.
Josh.
Nice, thanks,
Yeah.
Kylan.
This
Can
has
we
some-
actually get it? Let's run it back.
Oh
That's
yeah,
gonna bother me.
yeah. That
That's
is
gonna
embarrassing
bother
that
me.
we just
We
we'll-
gotta do it. We gotta like.
We're professionals here.
one.
That's a good
All right. There's 2.
Oh, it is just a bar 2. You're right.
Yeah.
It doesn't go into 3 at all. I swear.
It's
one of them
6.
has to be a 3.
Yeah,
It's
it's
6.
6. It's 6.
You sure?
Yeah, Josh was right. Yeah,
Okay.
Josh was right from the beginning.
All right. He always is.
6, 8.
I
you
remember.
go.
I counted it in my head while I was driving. I forgot to write my notes.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay.
Don't text and drive.
So good.
Thanks for that PSA, Jack.
PSA, thanks.
Lyrically, conceptually, where are we at?
Man, so like I said, there's that moment in Ask Me Now where the protagonist is like seeing the figure off in the woods, and they're like, who is this? I want it. Like, I need this union with this person. Could this save me? Could this help me? And I feel like we've had little glimpses of that narrative throughout the album so far. This finally feels like we've fallen in love with the game. We've kind of like hit some synchronicity. We've hit some a moment of connection where we figured things out, but we still kind of forgot maybe where we came from. We forgot our name. We forgot our origin. We forgot our
Fell in
source.
love with the game.
Yeah, we fell in love with the game. We got distracted along the way, but it does feel like we're coming to that place of connection. We're still in an awkward adjustment period a little bit. It also really reminds me, this is a little weird, but it reminds me of the story in Genesis where Jacob wrestles someone, like an unknown figure, And I think like the implication is it's like God or Christ
Right,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
This whole song, like, because he talks about fighting, not knowing the name is like this unknown figure. Like,
that's a good catch.
because a lot of times with relationships, right, there's a fight involved. Like there's like a little push pull. There's a little tension, ultimately to come to that union place, and that bridge especially, right? They're fighting, they're trying to work things out. The protagonist is like maybe giving up control a little bit and trying to release and trying to surrender a little bit, but it's a fight.
Yeah.
It's a tussle. But Kylan, this is the moment. That bridge.
What about it?
There's some Johnny in that bridge, my man.
Oh yeah.
What is it? What is it? What does he say?
You're right. We wrestle in the mud and the blood and the beer.
That's right.
Yeah.
What
Oh
song
my
is
gosh,
that?
how did I not
That's
even...
a Boy Called Sue reference.
That's a
Oh
Boy Called
my
Sue, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did I not even...
And I
Like,
love the idea of Christian, like, or the protagonist, like, wrestling with this idea of God or, like, Christ or something, like, in the mud and the blood and the
Right.
beer. That imagery is,
Yeah,
like,
it's really good.
taking that
wrestling
from a
because he
Johnny
named him
Cash song.
Sue.
Yeah.
Right.
Bill or
But-
George, any other name.
Any other name. And then the way that bridge sort of sonically amps back up into the chorus, I just think it's money.
It's
I
so
love it.
good. Yeah, this is very, very close contender for favorite song.
Yeah,
on the
it's
high
record.
up
up
there
there for me too.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it's a great
There's a reason
song.
it was a single.
Yeah.
TJ, are we going to the next section of your 3-part?
Not quite yet.
Okay, because there's 3 like little post tracks on this record, and I was like, is this gonna break that up perfectly?
You would think.
Yeah, it would have been nice. I would have loved that
I know.
cohesion.
It felt like it almost could do that, but the next tracks just feel like they're sticking in this second part.
All right.
So
Cool.
Well, let's move on to track number 8, City Lights.
I took a walk down the 4th Avenue when I saw it. That's right.
This was the one where just by picking individual notes, the guitar
added a
just
lot.
feels way different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in this one, the picking line goes back and forth between the left and right channels, so it's like, and it shifts back and forth, which I thought was a
Josh, how do you
easy
feel about...
way to make something interesting, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the side B of this record as opposed to the side A?
I guess I would. I don't know, man. That's good. I would say maybe a side A person on this one, but
Okay.
side B's got some good ones.
I think I'm more of like a middle person.
Yeah, I think I would say I'm a
You
middle
know,
person.
like
You like
a
the
little
second
bit,
triptych.
a little bit of yeah. But that's more my vibe anyway. You know.
Totally. Yeah, you've always been a second triptych kind of
Yeah,
guy.
exactly.
Yeah, the reason, Josh, we're still in part 2 of the story is City Lights feels like still some liminal space, right? There's a lot of this kind of like dark light dichotomy happening, and the interpolation of the line "trade love for the city lights, trade light
Yes.
for the city love" feels really great because it's like, what are we choosing?
well, there's
Are we
still a
moving-
decision. Yeah.
Yeah, are we moving
he's still
from like good
he's
to
still at the crux of a
bad?
decision here. Yeah.
Totally. And that back and forth and that push pull still feels very much second act kind
Yeah.
of material.
Totally.
Right? We haven't entered into the summation, if you will.
Right.
Um
Still that questioning, man.
Yes.
And I tried so hard to find a way to connect this to the Charlie Chaplin movie City Lights.
I mean, you
What?
could probably
Is
make
there
a
any
great
cha-
music video.
Yeah. And I tried so hard. There's nothing. There's nothing beyond the name that has any sense of
Sticking power.
relation to the movie.
Yeah.
But I do want to take this opportunity to say anyone that has not seen that movie should 100% watch it. Josh, you've seen it, right? Because it's on the
Yep.
AFI list.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones you recommended to me.
Yeah,
from
how'd
the
you feel
AFI
about
list.
it? It's my favorite Chaplin, like hands down. I know for a lot of people it's Modern Times or the Gold
I like
Rush.
Modern Times.
Modern Times was
more,
pretty
but
fun, but
yeah,
City
yeah.
Lights is
It was
more
better than what's the prospecting one?
the Gold Rush.
Gold Rush. I liked City Lights more than Gold Rush.
People love Gold Rush, and I
I
don't.
wasn't crazy
I don't-
about it.
No,
I was a
but
Modern
City
Times
Lights-
guy.
Modern
like
Times is
City
really fun, but City Lights One has the beautiful love story
It's got more heart.
and all the stuff with the drunk millionaire. That's like some of the best slapstick comedy I've ever seen. Anyway,
I think that's what inspired Christian Lindskog to write this song.
I tried to
if
find
he's
anything
pulling-
in this
If
song.
he's pulling from a Johnny Cash song, he is definitely pulling from Charlie Chaplin.
Could be.
Yeah, they're one and the same. I often get them confused.
He could be a big Charlie Chaplin fan. Who knows?
Who isn't, you know?
Yeah.
Most people, I feel like,
It's
unfortunately.
true. Lost to
Yeah.
time. I do want to note that unfortunately there are no new parts again added for the second verses. They're basically the same thing as the first, which is
Right.
unfortunate.
But
But I do really love. What are you gonna say?
no. I think this is my exact
I
note. So I'm
do
just
really
I'm waiting
love
patiently.
The accordion in this song.
Yes.
It makes it feel very European to me.
Yep.
It feels like you're walking along.
Yeah, walking
a city
Yeah.
street
Some-
late at
It,
night.
it really does, yeah. And I like that.
Yep. You're just like strolling along Stockholm and you're like warring with yourself.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Trying
am
to
I
get
an
my
individualist?
drunk millionaire friend home. And I just,
That's all I want in life, guys. If I'm being totally honest.
Drunkenly stumbling through the streets of Stockholm.
Well, I would not drunk. My friend is drunk and a millionaire, and
Right.
I'm wandering
You're
the
helping.
streets of Stockholm.
but he's gonna kick you out in the morning when he wakes up, sober. He's not your friend when
God,
he's
I'm
sober.
gonna watch City Lights again tonight. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. Do we have anything else for this? All right. Track number 9. We Are to Follow.
These streets are as cold and wet as my eyes, flesh and bones are longing home. I was taken out of context and to think.
So I like that he intros the song with "These streets are still cold and wet" as a little bit of a nod to the song
Right.
preceding it.
I had a similar note. Yours was a little more articulate, but I said, "Homeboy loves the streets."
It's true. There are a lot
That's
of
articulate. What are you talking about?
homeboy
That
loves
was
the
my
streets.
first
That's
one. I was
just as
like-
articulate as
I was like,
anything
man,
TJ's ever said.
man. I'll take that. Man, homeboy loves the streets.
Homeboy loves the streets. No, it's true though. Like there's a lot of imagery across this album that repeats.
Yeah.
And I
No,
think
this
that-
definitely feels like a continuation
Right.
of the last song,
Right.
for sure.
So narratively, like what's happening for me, I think, is like the protagonist is sort of gaining more steam. They're coming out of that liminal space of being unsure whether they want to lean into this idea of union and acknowledge the Great Depression that they're in societally and kind of pivot and change and really lean into surrender and like seeking help from others, whether it's this figure out there or from their fellow human. But it's like a thesis statement. We are to follow, right? There's a certitude and a sureness that we're seeing now that's kind of new, but it's very much from a place of submission or a place of being a follower as opposed to fighter
Right.
or an individualist. And so I like that idea of following and holding faith in, you know, the greater good or the mysterious figure to lead us and move us in the right direction. Also, I just love the gang vocals happening on the chorus.
Mm-hmm.
I
We're
love
good.
gang- I always love gang vocals.
Like I
I'm
said,
always
this
down
is
for
this
some.
is part of that like middle section that I really love on this
Yes.
record. Feels really solid.
Yeah.
I will say.
So I feel like he's talking
Oh,
to the he's talking to the wider audience now.
Mhm.
And he's like saying, "Hey guys, like I've kind of wrestled through this. I've gone through my inner turmoil, my dark night of the soul.
Right.
Can y'all join me now?"
now he's
And, like,
organizing the revolution.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's gone through his personal story arc to now
Yep.
affect others.
Externalizing it. Yes, exactly.
Nice.
To now lead the revolution.
Ayo. I do like. I feel like the guitar scratches in the choruses are some interesting work. Some of the more interesting work Simon's done on this record. So good job, Simon, on that one.
He's got
Yeah.
more distorted radio vocals too.
Yes.
But this feels
Love those.
more, instead of like hearing it in the background, it feels almost like, to kind of go with the whole revolution thing, like he's almost like yelling through like a megaphone.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
All
right.
from a bandstand
Yeah.
or something. He's like, "Come on, y'all.
Yeah.
Join the revolution, baby."
All right, guys, are we ready to move on to track number 10?
Well,
Huh.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention on that same theme, the marching footsteps at the very end of the song.
Oh yeah.
At the end of the chorus, there's those marching footsteps that kind of sync up with the rhythm of the music happening at the time. And I am always torn. I can't tell whether it's supposed to be this kind of hopeful revolutionary march like we've been saying, or if it's like an ominous like regime kind of trying to squash the revolution entering the scene.
Right.
And I wanted to put it to you guys. What does it feel like at the end of the song?
I don't know.
Does it feel oppressive and ominous, or does it feel hopeful?
It feels hopeful to me.
Okay.
Yeah, because it feels like he's inspiring people, and it's like, all right, let's do it.
I
Let's
like
do
that.
It, y'all.
Okay. All right, let's go with that. I like
Sweet.
that.
I can get down with that. Yeah.
Well, speaking of doing it, guys, let's move on to the next track. You must be bleeding under your eyelids.
He inhale, puts down the phone like suddenly still. Just another night, well, there's a different song. Heard from someone, now she sings along. Turn the car key back out through the driveway. He sees her face when he closes.
There's that return to the eyelids imagery I was mentioning,
And fog.
right?
Talks about fog a bit in the first part.
Right. We're back to that. Yeah. But it's this time the eyelids imagery is associated with blood, pain, suffering, death.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe trigger warning, maybe self-harm, maybe suicide. It feels to me like we've hit that point where the protagonist has realized some of the nuance of like trying to lead a revolution of surrender
Right.
and change, and seeing some of the consequences. And maybe there's like a loved one, a person that they really care about, that they're seeing go through their own
Right.
personal turmoil process,
Yeah.
and maybe not doing so well with it, maybe not coming
Interesting.
out so,
Yeah.
whole on the other side.
Well, I love
like a
hearing this
cry.
context from you as well, because like that really puts to light my first note on this is like it's doing this whole like pseudo like standard songwriting and pseudo linear songwriting, and I couldn't quite figure out where it landed or where it wanted to land, but thinking of it in more of a sort of like global, bigger kind of concept-y way makes all that kind of make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, it's like this protagonist kind of reaching out to somebody they care about and seeing them struggle and
Yeah.
being like, all I can do is wipe the blood from your eyes. But I've been there. Like, I've been where you are now. And there
Right.
is a way through. There is like a third way almost. Like, you don't have to either fight it out on your own in this kind of individualist lens and carry the pain on your own.
Right.
You also don't have to just give up and say your life is over.
Yeah.
But there's like a third way. You can rely on this other force out there. You can share your suffering with the group. There's a communal level of hope to it.
Yeah.
And the protagonist is trying to like kind of share that with this person who they're kind of trying to vouch for or plea out to.
Right.
There's a moment at like 2:35 where the music amps up and then dies, kind of falls down, amps up, falls down. Again, that dynamism I've been talking about. It feels like a battle for this person's soul almost. And they're coming in,
Right. And
and
then
then they're fading out. Whether they're trying to, make a choice to end their life or to give up in a sense. And the protagonist is really trying to like connect with them and fight for them and fight with them to show them that third way of like, you can get through this together and leaning on something greater than yourself and outside yourself.
I love that.
It's a little heady and a little like heartfelt.
That's cool.
But it's how the song landed for me this
Yeah,
time.
I like that, because my only other note, I like so much of this song. I liked musically and I liked lyrically. I hate the chorus. The chorus sounds like a Creed song to me.
Kind of does.
That was the
Yeah.
band TJ was going to mention. Yeah.
That was it. Yeah.
Like,
You must be bleeding. Yes, sir.
yeah.
Oh my god.
I think it's specifically like the guitars are doing that slow, like kind of
Yeah.
like
chunky
yeah.
stuff. Yep. It's true.
Yeah, I do like the visual of bleeding under your eye. I mean, I don't know if I like it, but I'm not like
It's evocative.
it's very evocative. It creates a good picture. So very descriptive picture, I'll say.
That's true.
Tomas getting some bass time on this one in this song as well.
Yes. Yeah. Strong bass work on this.
Yep. Good middle section of the record.
It is,
Yeah.
dude.
So this is also the last song in the second part
That makes
of the
sense.
triptych
Ooh.
here.
Makes sense.
All
I'm digging
right,
it.
all right.
It's the end of Act 2. Moving
Yeah.
on to Act 3
Four
On a
songs to
personal
bring
level.
it home.
with track number 11, My Alibi.
My feet felt light for the first time in months.
Guys, this is my favorite song on the record.
I knew it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Please explain why.
It's vibey and dancey.
Well, there's a part of this that is, even though it's not my favorite song, is my favorite part of the entire record.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh?
you guys
Oh, I know.
know me at this point. And we'll get to it, but tell us why it's your favorite song.
Well, for one thing, I think it works as the first song in the last section of the story because he it starts with this dancey groove, with that guitar line and that kind of like groove-in bass. I think it's like a synth bass or something, but the uplifting lyrics that marry with that groove. The first line is "My feet felt light for the first time in months," and that's such a lift, right, out of this story of like the protagonist maybe speaking to a loved one that they're seeing struggle, and it's kind of a darker portion of the album to move into this idea of feeling light for the first time in so long. Feels like the new chapter and the final chapter, and there's some perspective too when all is said and done, when all is gone and still just begun. So it's both like an ending and a new beginning. So I like that hopefulness and that kind of like energy that this track injects into the album, especially this late in the album, right? For a track 11 to have this kind of dancey hype and
Right.
an upbeat nature a little bit. I really like it. It's kind of acknowledging that dark night of the soul. It's looking back a little bit, like on the journey that they've been on, but also looking forward and getting to this idea of like reaching a mountaintop of sorts, like, and maybe they're reaching that place of union with this unknown figure. The idea of dancing with this figure, like this beloved,
The
right?
sentiment in general of the chorus is like one of my favorites that we've gotten into on this show. Even.
Yes.
Like, I'll read the lyric real quick. When all is said and done, when all is gone and still just begun, I will be asked what I did with my time and why. Can you be my alibi? Because I know I spent it dancing with you. That's just so good.
It's good. It's good writing.
It's solid. It's
the
really
concept
solid.
alone of like a person being an alibi,
Right.
A literal like personal alibi where you don't need a story or an explanation or a thing or a place that you were. Like the person kind of like covers you. You're spoken for. You're represented. You're taken care of. You can kind of like literally fall into their arms and like dance with them and find that release, find that surrender, find that acceptance. And yeah, man, that dance house moment, that like
Got some
Euro
Euro
house
house in
moment.
here. I'm like, hell yeah, dude. I'm here for
Weird
this.
synth
Like,
line,
why
like-
did this come in here? I don't know, but I love it.
Yeah. What's that time code? We gotta put that in there.
236.
236, man. Just raise the roof.
Yeah, dude. Because the song basically like ends.
Yeah.
It's over, and then it's like,
Nope. It ain't over. We're dancing. I'm dancing with you, man.
I was halfway between like keep this or cut this to like a 2.5 minute kind of like interlude song because again, this is a long record. There's 14 songs on here, so maybe it would be nice to have like a 2.5 minute song. But I did really like. I was a little surprised at like the whole like post-punk speaking part kind of thing, like because sometimes I feel like that can fall flat or it just seems like an easy go-to.
Right.
But I really liked it as track 11 to kind of break things up a little bit and draw
Yeah,
you
it's a
in
twist.
again. Yeah, it's
Right.
a twist. Yeah, so I really liked that aspect.
yeah,
of
I
it.
think I'm more side B in general than side A on this record. But you got to put Yamkala inside B, and then
There you go.
That's that
You
whole
like-
track list.
I like that he like really leans into like I'm gonna say Blindside, and you guys
Yep.
all know it, but
Uh-huh.
like he's like I'm aware of what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, he like leans into it so much with this kind of like sad nature. Like it feels very, I don't know, like an admission of guilt, but also like knowing he's okay.
right.
My deaf ear and my blind side.
Mhm.
He's kind of like,
His delivery is almost a little Bradley Hathaway
yeah,
esque.
100%. And I think I agree, Josh. I'm glad to hear you say that because I think it works because he's just kind of like, he's throwing up his arms and he's saying like, I can't do it on my own anymore. I figured that out. And I'm just like, with reckless abandon, just kind of leaning into losing myself in my alibi, this figure, this like force and this power and this strength and this love, and just losing myself in an ecstatic dance and like dynamic union.
Yeah.
Like, and that weird Euro house
Yeah.
vibe like only underlines that.
right.
Boots and cats and boots and cats.
So good. So weird. Well, I'm glad this is your favorite song. This is
Deep
good.
cut.
Deep cut, baby.
Yeah.
My alibi.
I'll be your alibi.
Thanks,
You
dude.
can tell people you're
He's-
dancing with me.
He's
Can we
been,
dance
yeah. Oh yeah. TJ, he was dancing with me. Yeah.
Yeah. He was just dancing with me.
He was
man.
dancing with me. He's good. He's covered.
All right, guys. Track number 12, "Come to Rest." Isikia?
Hesicia? I don't know, man.
I
It's
have no
Greek,
idea.
and so I think it's Isikia.
Ah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, hard
Yeah.
CH. Yep.
Yeah, Isikia.
Good call. Good call.
Do you know what it means?
Yes, I
Is it
do.
just a name or is it a word?
No, it is. It basically means like rest or
Mm,
like quiet.
Ah,
that's so
okay.
good.
Yeah,
With some
Act
guest
3.
vocals.
and it makes sense
Yes,
for the
DJ.
for the rest of the title. Yeah, who are
Yeah.
the guest vocals?
I will butcher the pronunciation of this name.
I'm glad I'm not
But
having to do it.
Ika Vitasalo?
Oh yeah, Ikavita Salo.
Totally.
You guys don't know Ikavita Salo?
Of what band?
Metal Mayhem.
Metal Mayhem?
Oh wow, I blanked hard.
No, you meant he was in Death Clock, right?
That was it.
Oh man,
Yeah.
wow! Did you see that look of pure
Utter fear. Yeah.
fear in my face
That was
when you
awesome.
asked?
I loved that.
And Metal Mayhem is what I came up with.
That was a good alliteration.
All right. Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah. Well, guys, we're gonna start a metal band called Metal Mayhem.
Metal Mayhem. And it's going to be jazz.
Yeah. Oh, I'm into that.
The band is Benea Reach.
Mm.
They're a Norwegian progressive metal band based in Oslo.
That makes sense. I hate this guy's voice.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool.
I don't like it.
Oh, Benny, was that? It must have been his other band because he is also from Self Minded, which was, I think they were on Solid State
Oh.
back in the day.
Is that right?
I thought they were Swedish. Is it Norwegian? Maybe Self Minded is Swedish and Benny Reach is Norwegian. I don't know.
Could be. Could be.
I thought they were Swedish, but
There we go, mangling facts again. Look
yeah, I
out.
know.
All the blindsiders are gonna come after us.
They're going to come after us, man.
This song is rad as hell, though.
It's cool.
It's more. They just vacillate so wildly. I mean, they just had this like 3-minute Euro house
Dance track.
dance breakdown, and then go into straight up more like old school punk.
Weird, yeah. Like hardcore punk.
They like pepper them in like a couple songs, and then we need a rockin' one, and then a couple
Yeah.
more songs and another one.
This song very specifically reminded me of the movie Green Room. Have you seen
Yes, yeah.
that? Josh, have you seen that?
No.
It's a horror movie with
Oh, well, then I definitely haven't.
Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
It's like the
It's
Anton
crazy.
Yelkin and what's her face? Maybe from Arrested Development is in it too. What's her
Oh,
name?
yeah.
Alia
Shawkat.
Shawkat.
Alia Shawkat, yeah. It's
Yeah.
pretty great.
They're like a young punk band who goes to this venue in the middle of nowhere. only to
Patrick
find
Stewart's
out-
in the punk band.
Dude, they find out that they're like, it's actually like a punk Nazi,
like neo-Nazi skinheads,
like Nazi skinhead compound, and Patrick Stewart is like the head of the Nazis.
It's insane.
It's a horror movie, so it's like bloody.
And
but
then there's
it's
like some twists along the
fucking
way.
rad.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
You might, yeah, the musical elements of it, I think, might balance out the like horror elements enough for you.
But this could feature on the soundtrack.
Yeah,
it
this
could have
felt
been
like
one of the
that.
bands.
It's like this kind of punk music.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I'm just imagining basically like the horror movie version of like Scott Pilgrim.
yeah, basically.
That's the vibes you're giving me. They go
Yeah.
here, and instead of having to fight some evil ex, it's neo-Nazis.
It's a bunch of Nazis.
Pretty
yeah.
much. Yeah, you
It's a
nailed it.
rad movie though.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And to me, thematically, in this kind of last movement, I visualized the verses as the people sort of in the society that the protagonist was talking to
Oh, interesting.
responding and saying, you don't know what our life's like. It's hard.
Right.
Everything sucks. Like, you don't understand. Things are bad and they'll never get better. It's kind of this defeatist, kind of nihilist pushback.
Right.
A lot of anger, a lot of like tension, and acknowledging the very real, like, hard shit that's out there
Yeah.
in life, right? So it's a valid position. But then the chorus is the protagonist from the mountaintop that they've reached, right? The protagonist has reached the mountaintop. They're in union with their beloved, their mysterious figure, and they're like, "Hey, no, it's okay. Like, you can come to rest at a spring unseen.
Right.
You can find peace and wellness, and we can all be okay together." But then the verse responds again, like, "No."
Well, I might even push back that, like you said, that was maybe. God, now my mind totally blanked. But you said in the first, like, that it was like a valid opinion.
Totally.
Well, I don't know, because these verses feel so mean to me.
They are mean.
And I don't know if it's valid.
Well, within the song itself, like without getting meta with my weird pseudo concept, I feel like it's a very like cut and dry, like angry teenager anthem, but I think of it as a valid one because to me it's like they're feeling the pressure of an older generation. Maybe it's their parents,
Right.
some kind of guardian, really putting
Yeah,
a lot of
No,
pressure on them.
I totally agree with that. I guess
And they're
I
like-
misunderstood. Like, yeah, because that, like, those expectations, like it's setting up those expectations again that those expectations are what's wrong.
Are bonkers, yeah.
Like, don't scream like a little girl, shut up, boys don't cry. It's
right?
like,
Yeah.
God damn, dude.
Yeah, keep up with the schedule, shape
Yeah.
up, have to perform. So it's these expectations that an older generation is putting on a younger generation.
Right, yeah.
And the verses are the younger generation kind of pushing back. And in my weird narrative,
Then
I'm saying
he's
it's
like, well, there's
the protagonist
yeah,
on the mountaintop saying, "Come to a rest that flows from a spring unseen, because honestly, you're scaring me." Pointing out that the kind of the frenetic energy, the valid position of being put under a lot of pressure has created a little bit of like a volatile situation,
Right.
where like you might do something you'd regret, you might get a little violent, you might do something
okay.
that,
I
that
get
could
what-
have
yeah,
like
yeah.
consequences. So there's a
Picking up what you're
back
throwing
and
down.
forth. There's a little like tension there, but the song ends with that kind of blistering like, "Can't take this no more, the cause of death, suicide." Like, ugh. And the way he just like drops that note,
Yeah.
like guttural almost.
Mm.
And then there's this weird Western outro.
Yeah, dude.
Very weird.
It's so wild. Like,
It's the weirdest and the longest of like their little outro parts
Yeah,
that they've
it's
done
over a
on this
minute.
record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. And to me, this is like the exodus or the parting of ways of the society that the protagonist has tried to get on board. Some of the people are like rejecting it, and they're like, "No, like, forget that. I'm not doing that. I'm sticking with the ways I know that work,
Interesting.
that quote unquote work."
Indeed.
But then there's also like those that heard what the protagonist had to say and thought it was a good call.
Here
So
for it. Yeah.
they're like climbing up the hill now to join the protagonist on the mountaintop. So it's like the exodus, basically. This weird interstitial, like country western.
So weird. All right, guys. Let's move on to track number 13 this time.
I'll say on my first listen when this song came on, this intro like immediately hooked me. I was like, ooh, I like this. I like just like the vibe that's going on here. So
Also,
and
this has
then
some sweet fretless bass.
some
true.
double bass played by Hampus Nordgren.
Of course.
Thank you for that, Josh.
That was a great Gollum impression.
I won't do it, Kylan. You'll never get me to do a Gollum impression on this show.
Okay. We'll see.
Yeah. Hold strong, Josh.
I will.
Yeah, guys, I think the side B is better than side A on this record.
Yeah,
You might be right.
could be.
You might be right.
It's more musically interesting. I'll say
That's
that.
true. Yeah.
I really like this song. This is one of my favorites on the record. I like the spooky chorus.
Yes. Those
Josh does love a spooky chorus.
those like high backing vocals.
Yeah, Chris like this time. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
I apologize to
Yeah.
everyone who heard my falsetto just now.
I don't apologize.
Yeah.
I thought it was amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Me too.
The snare, the pattern on the it's the chorus section where it's like the one and the snare's like hitting on the you know. It feels so weird, but
Yeah.
it works. It's like groovy. It shouldn't be. It should like that kind of strange choice does feel kind of jazzy.
Jarringly groovy.
And it yeah, that's it. That's it. It's jarringly groovy.
Jarringly groovy.
Well said, Josh. Yeah, and that upright bass is so good.
No, that's a great touch.
There's a rhyme in here though that harkens back to a previous episode of our show.
Tell me
And I'm
everything.
curious because I don't remember where y'all landed, but I didn't like it in that. And so I'm curious if y'all like it in this. Look over your shoulder, you have become older. Draw some similarities to is it All the Days from FM Static?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. I won't even look over my shoulder
Your
until I
shoulder?
find a cure for getting older.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that line.
Yeah.
And I also like the version of it here.
It's
It's just like it's a
It's a little rote.
I also
classic
think,
rhyme. classic rhyme.
Christian,
Classic.
I think them being Swedish, they get away with like a lot of stuff that I'd call someone else on, but because
For
they're
sure,
Swedish,
but
I'm like,
that's the
Totally.
thing,
that
though.
works. I
Even
like
with
it.
that,
Yeah.
with that, lyrically, he is fucking crushing it.
Yep.
No,
lyrically
yeah, for
throughout
sure.
this record.
Yeah, the
like,
whole
yeah,
thing.
because I agree. Like normally I
older
would
shoulder
if, like,
line. Yeah.
Yeah,
If, like-
he gets one.
English as a second language or whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, lyrically, he's
Killing it.
killing it.
Yeah, I feel like he pulls it off.
Yeah, for sure. Kylan, is this what you're talking about with the one note?
What?
And
Well, I wrote because they bring it down for the bridge, but then Simon is just playing whole like.
Oh, yeah. No,
just
I was-
one note at a time.
I was specifically talking about City Lights, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, here
Okay,
it
gotcha.
works too.
Yeah, well, because I was like, I mean, at least like add a third in there for like some color, but he's just playing like the
Right.
root, just. So I'm like, you could have done a lot more to make it a little more interesting,
Could
but
have. But
but the song still works regardless without that.
Simon likes the simple stuff.
yeah,
Simple Simon, you know, that's what they call him.
Josh and I are the same on this episode. Oh man. Okay, guys, there's only one more track.
Yeah, I like how this song crumbles away into
Yeah,
nothing.
kind of just like
The ending. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a hard thing to pull off. Ending a song by just like kind of
Yeah, but then
Crumbling
I
into
do like
nothing.
right before then they do like some synchronized hits where that bum 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 bum,
Dun,
and then
dun,
it like
dun.
falls
Yeah.
off. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that part too.
10 out of 10 on the ending.
sweet. All right, guys, last track.
Let's do it.
When I Remember.
That boy is gone. Sometimes I miss the way he wept at night to be still and not run.
Based on your concept narrative, this
Yes.
like totally makes sense.
Exactly.
More.
The boy is gone,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've moved on.
I don't know if because I thought that it was wrapping it up lyrically in an interesting way, but I maybe was on a different wavelength than you. So, because how does it wrap it up for you? Is it a happy outcome?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like it's losing of a sense of self, right? It's sort of ego death kind of stuff where you're being moved by an outer force, right? There's that moment of union of My Alibi where you're dancing with the unknown party out there that you've been kind of seeking, and you've been moving out of this Great Depression you moved up to the mountaintop, you're together, and now you see this cloud moving in, the rain falling, the thunder strikes, but it's still okay because the sunshine is
But I'm not
breaking through the
forgotten.
clouds.
He keeps saying, he repeats that refrain, but I'm not forgotten.
Right. And nobody moves me like you do. So it's an ego death. It's a loss of self. It's an admission of the world not being perfect and not having it all together, not having all the answers, it kind of doing away with this individualist idea and kind of being purified, being cleansed
Right.
by the storm.
It's not like a melodramatic, like Twilight Zone dark ending. I feel like it is a dark ending, but there is that element of like, well, that's kind of life, so it's gonna be okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Rebirth. It's a little bit of a phoenix imagery, like being born out of the ashes. Yeah, I kind of
Like
keep
a
coming
phoenix
back to.
rising out of Arizona.
That's right. And yeah, you better believe it.
Yeah, it feels like a very like realistic, like humanist kind of.
I was kind of looking at it more through the looking at it as like a response to like Yamkala, where he's like being numb and like a reality TV clone. But here, because he's like, these days there's not much that will bring me to tears to my eyes. But then like he remembers who he, like it takes him back to like, I guess, connecting with more like empathy and being like, oh, and I see like if there's tears, there's not much that brings the tears to his eyes, but when he remembers, a cloud moves in and the rain falls. And I was like, is that his tears? Maybe like being able to kind of connect with people on like a human level again, breaking out of the numbness.
Yeah. Well, guys, we did it. We listened to the Great Depression. So let's get some final thoughts and then some final flop or bop verdicts.
I like it.
I don't know. I liked TJ. I liked your little concept. I was grabbing my AirPod, but I'll shake your hands. I like the concept album thing. That resonated with me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Can I just go ahead and say? Can I just
Do
go
it,
for
man.
it?
Go for
Lead
it.
us in.
Okay. Yeah, I had a lot of problems with this record. Production wise, like we said, I don't need to reiterate too much of that. There's some boring elements. Side B, I definitely think is better than side A. But Blindside is, based on this record alone, a very interesting band. So, what I'll say, so I was like right on the line, flop or bop. It's like very, I don't know, it's a long record, which is typically in the con column for me.
You got me bleeding through my eyelids right
I
now.
know.
Is he gonna ascend to the mountain of peace, or is he quitting and
Gonna
going
stay
back
in
to
the Great
city?
Depression.
Yeah.
That's right.
Homeboy loves the streets, Okay.
Okay.
It's right on the line. Right on the line.
I see that line.
And then something happened in this recording. TJ, you brought this concept idea. You know how I feel about narrative, especially in records. The lyrical content, like I said, because the production is typically so simple, with a
Right.
few just like out of left field things. Is the tension getting to you?
It is.
Don't know.
I'm dying.
No, it barely pushed over the line to a bop for me.
Yes.
Ooh,
I love
enjoyed
it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Nice, man.
Kylan fell in love with the game. But did not forget your name.
That's right.
The Blindside game.
You're not going to forget the name of Blindside now.
Well, I never forgot
Your
their name.
blind sides.
I don't know. That's all I got. Josh, what about you?
That's all you got? Okay. Nah,
Or
TJ.
should we save Josh
TJ,
for last?
Yeah,
No.
TJ, go.
All right, TJ.
I'll go. I mean, y'all knew this was going to bop for me.
Well, yeah.
It was my wish
Yeah,
lister.
of course.
But I will say I definitely did notice the lack of more intricate and present lead work on this listen back. I was really happy though that it, in the ways that I originally fell in love with this album, the game and this album, I think my alibi is gonna be that this record still holds up. I think it slaps. It bops for me. I think the concept was one that had kind of been bubbling in my brain sort of subconsciously for a long time. And I never put all the pieces together until going back to this album to listen through for the purpose of this episode. but it just makes the album stronger. And I mean, y'all could tell I was bought in. I was high on my own
Definitely were.
supply a little bit.
You definitely were bought in.
But I think it, to what we've mentioned already on this episode, Christian's vocals are incredible, and as y'all have both admitted, like he in a lot of times, at a lot of points in this album, carries the album. And I think the part of me that always, as a drummer, wanted to be a front person and wanted to write songs and wanted to sing songs, I think I saw him doing it and saw them play live and saw the energy that he brought to the stage and saw the emotion in this album. And that resonated so deeply for me that it's still like, I don't know, it's so good that it resonated then, and it's still like hitting so perfectly in my 30s. And I think an album that can do that can like hit in a great way in your teens and then still resonate with you and help you pull new layers of meaning and concept out of album from the 2000s at 34 speaks to its quality. And so it still bops.
Sweet.
And I'm not depressed.
I'm glad. All right, Josh.
What do you got, Josh?
You gonna bring us into a Great Depression?
Man, what will I do?
Are the storm
here?
clouds coming in?
They might be. We'll see. So yeah, this record was interesting. That like I talked about, production wise, there was a lot of stuff that I don't know, just overall the production of this record I wasn't really crazy about. Musically, I was surprised that there wasn't a ton that I felt like impressed me. Like there wasn't like a ton of like outstanding drum moments or like some really cool bass going on. And like I've already talked about with like the guitar parts of being like super sparse and empty. Like I was surprised that like a band of Blindside success that was huge, and I was like, oh, I expected there to be more intricate parts happening.
So, as someone that is not very familiar with the band, after the success of the two records before this, does this then sort of feel like a return to their roots, back to basics kind of album?
I think it,
because that was the vibe I got listening
Yeah.
to it, but I don't have much context.
I don't know their first album super well, but I do know that
They have two before they got signed.
I feel like this one does feel like a return to that first album
Yeah.
in a pretty big way, but with better production.
Right. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just
No, you're good. You're good. So yeah, I was just getting into. I was really excited to get into this record, but it was a hard thing for me to get over, feeling like there wasn't so much left on the table. Like it felt like whenever you have a school project, like a group project, and you all do your parts, and then someone else in your group does it. Like they're like, Simon, we were supposed to write full page. You only write half page, Simon. Where's the rest of your parts? And then Christian's like, you look at Christian's and his is like, he wrote the full page, but
single
it's like
space,
he's got like
12-point type,
like great design and artwork on, and they're just like, Simon,
he's
man,
got the
like,
graphs.
Like, what are you doing,
He
Simon?
bought all
Like,
the supplies,
You
too.
left us hanging here with this. But all that to say, Christian, I said, is carrying this record, and the strength of the songs is carrying this record, and Christian is an amazing vocalist. So, like, having, I guess, the simplified music does give him more room to just do his thing, and it works really well when he's doing his thing. I wish there was just more, like, I don't need crazy technical parts. I just would like
just
more filling stuff out.
yeah.
Yeah, double track some interesting stuff there every now and then, Simon. So that was a big hurdle for me to get over.
Right.
And I it's a fascinating topic of minimal versus maximal tendencies that this is already a very long episode, but I do want to talk to you about that at some point on this podcast. I find it very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will. This was pretty close to me, but I enjoyed this record more than I had promised with it, so I will bop it.
Whoa! I did not expect
I
that.
definitely think I will enjoy Silence and About a Burning Fire more.
I think I will too,
but
as
yes.
a complete Blindside neophyte, this like is making me excited to get more into their discography.
You were completely
Nice.
blindsided by listening
Yeah, I was
to Blindside the first
blindsided
time.
by it.
Yeah.
Hey, I was blindsided by a triple bop for this.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
me too.
That's wild. By the skin of its teeth, man.
Sandra Bullock would be
Skin is-
proud.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock would be proud.
Charlie
And-
Chaplin would too.
And Randy Travis, or who is Tim
Garth
McGraw?
Tim McGraw. Randy Travis.
All right,
No,
guys.
he
I
was the
think-
president in National Treasure too.
What?
No, wait, no. Randy Travis is playing at that. My bad.
Oh, my God.
Sorry.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Okay.
He's going off the rails.
This is going to be it for us at Church Jams Now. Please follow us on all the social media. Church Jams Now, Twitter, Instagram, the like, LinkedIn.
Rate
You know how to
and
link it.
review on
Yes.
Spotify and Apple.
Yeah, please give us reviews, man. We like to hear from people. And we got tons more bonus content at patreon.com/churchjamsnowpodcast. That's going to do it for us. Of course, may all your favorite bands stay together. And peace out, motherfuckers.